So, guys, we're only a couple weeks out from pumpkin spice latte debut, which means that it is hot in Texas, where we currently reside, for better or for worse. I never understand why people in Texas rush on the end of August to get a hot pumpkin-flavored beverage.
Yeah.
And it could literally be 99 degrees outside, 102.
Pumpkin spice.
And they're just like in it. And I was like, we don't even get fall. We don't get fake fall.
No. Remember, what was it last year? We went to the pumpkin patch. And I was telling someone that we were at the pumpkin patch because it was near Halloween. And I was like, it was hot and dusty, and we were gathering pumpkins to decorate our house.
But I need you to understand, if you are not from Texas, if you live someplace that has beautiful fall, I need you to paint you a picture. It's just a barren, dusty field that someone has taken and picked pumpkins out into groups. And there might be like activities, like a train, bull riding kind of thing, like a little mechanical bull. But it's also very windy in October.
That's right, it is.
In Texas, so you're getting blasted.
Dust motes.
These like dust devils, and it's hot, and
you're covered in the dust.
And you're covered in the dust,
body.
and it might have been cool when you got there,
right?
Like everybody might have had like a little sweater, cardigan, sweatshirt. Because I feel like we did start off the day cool,
yeah,
but then instantly it's like tank top and shorts weather.
Because we can do that here. We can go from sweater to shorts and the
in 3
tank
hours.
top. Yes.
On the East Coast, like, oh, we went apple picking today. And I was like, I don't even know what that feels
apple
like.
Picking?
Yeah.
What is that? What?
Like, literally, like.
It's fantastic.
She's done it.
Yeah. I mean, we lived up southeast for a time when I was growing up. And yeah, there are apple orchards, and you can go, just like here we have, you pick your own strawberries or whatever berries.
This is true. We do have that.
But you go and you get your bushel and you go pick apples, and it's cool and everything.
Crisp.
Then you can try some apple cider that's on the on the farm.
maybe a little frost in the morning as you arrive.
It's like fall has been my favorite time of year. It's when I was born, but like you wake up and usually, in other climates, it's brisk, it's bracing, it's like a new start.
It makes you enjoy those warm beverages.
And the sweaters.
Sweater weather.
I love it.
That's not.
And here, even by Christmas, you could be out picking Christmas trees.
You could have flip-flops on depending on the day.
Yeah.
Until like January.
See, I've only lived in Texas. Oh man, this sounds like a vibe.
If you haven't listened to the last episode, maybe circle back around to that one. We just kind of were talking about like signs of burnout. What does that look like? What does it feel like? How to recognize it in yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I think today we wanted to kind of sit down and chat with you guys about, okay, well, we've recognized the burnout. We feel the burnout. We recognize it in our best friends or people in our circle. So what can we do? What are some ways that we can seek out that maybe are restful, that are rejuvenating, that promote recovery if we found ourselves in that place of burnout? I know for me, Lilla-Marie, last time you talked about hitting a big burnout. Mm-hmm. I would say my burnout never was like hitting a big wall, but it was more like just tiny fires burning everywhere. So like the idea of trying to recover and rest in these different things was then leading to more exhaustion. Neadra, how did you what was your aha moment? Like, what just happened? How did I get here? Like, oh, this is burnout. This isn't just tired.
This might happen to some of you. 2 years ago, whenever COVID was, COVID hit and I ended up getting COVID. Now, COVID, I made it was fine. But then I caught my daughter's cold right after COVID. And that, I already had no immune system, and it hit me. I was very sick, but still doing life because the people around you were still doing the things. So what ended up happening is, because I was sick and I did not have a plan B to, maybe I wasn't asking for help, I wasn't speaking up with the things I had going on, or whatever the case may be, when I ended up being sick, it spiraled me into burnout. So sometimes life happens and then it propels you into burnout. Sometimes something happens, sadly, a family member passing away. These things can trigger lots of things happening, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, my world is just kind of spiraling. And so what ended up happening is I'm physically ill, but I still need to get the kids to school. I still need to empty this dishwasher. I still need to do these things. I'm still in charge. I signed up for XYZ. Instead of saying, hey, I no longer can be the president of the, spelling bee competition. I just made that up. Instead of saying, I can't do that, we say, I signed up. I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. And so then you're doing all of these things knowing you don't even know how you're going to get to the end of the season. You're like, I don't even know. And so I did that. And then, like I talked about in the last episode, I turned around and was like, oh my God, I can't believe I made it out of that. That was a hot mess. And so I think that's when I realized sometimes burnout can be triggered by other things around you that are happening. Do you guys have that, or was it different for you, Lilla-Marie?
I mean, for me, when I think I mentioned this as well last episode, there were probably lots of different issues that came to a head, but it was carrying unresolved issues in life, whether it be parenting or just managing all, relationships and just how to make it through life, and commitments and expectations. Just carrying that for about 20 years without actively taking care of myself, of taking breaks and checking in. So it really came to a head. So it was 20 years worth, and it's a long time. And so that's how mine happened. And so I'm sure every time life, things outside of my daily that happened, I would just, spiral into burnout, and I would come back, but it was just to a certain level of burnout that I would be returning to before I went down into the depths. And so I came to that point where I had to sit with myself. And for me, one of the ways of recovering is having some silence, recovering my own voice, taking time to hear what I'm thinking without all the other voices. And I wanted to mention before we go any further, something that came to mind, that we are kind of acculturated, especially as women, to say yes to all the things. And so when we're saying yes to all the things, what we're actually doing is saying no to ourselves. Yeah. We're saying, no, you don't get to rest. No, you don't get to fill your cup. We're denying ourselves. It's kind of a self abuse or Stockholm syndrome, or however you want to frame it. So we need to first to kind of just acknowledge that we get so used to saying yes, and there's almost a morality attached to that. If you say no, then you are a disagreeable person. Right. So one thing to keep in mind with burnout is learning that we need to and should say no to some things. Knowing that it is saying yes to ourselves, our needs.
And no is a complete sentence. Mm-hmm. There doesn't need to be an explanation behind it. I know that's something that I had to learn that I felt like you could be like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that because, and then there had to be an explanation. Mm-hmm. And I think I saw they're the Olsen twins, and then the sister that's in all of them Marvel. She, sorry, I can't remember her first name right now, but I remember her saying that was like one of the best advices that her sisters had given her when she came into the acting world, was that no is a complete sentence, and you don't have to explain yourself. But yes, so like allowing that margin, I think is also a good thing. I've heard it put so many ways, like things that fall below the red line. You know what you can do, and you make that list, and whatever you fell below the red line today. You know what I mean? But I guess the thing that puts us in a place of avoiding that burnout is making sure that we personally, you are always above the red line.
That's good. Hey, listen, I've got your first hard truth. Okay.
It's time for a hard truth. Get ready. Here it comes to you.
Listen, the hard truth is, when you say no, someone's going to be upset.
Yes. Facts.
And guess what? They're going to be
And at first, it might be you. As you're learning to adjust to that.
Sometimes.
If you have people-pleasing tendencies, the person who's going to be the most upset in that situation is going to be you, because you have to face and talk and sit down with those feelings and say, it's okay that I said no. I haven't let anybody down. The sun is still going to come up tomorrow. My children are still going to grow up to be, participating members of society. Like, I haven't turned anybody, like, the world is not going to end. That I said no, I couldn't bring cupcakes to the brunch, or I can't have lunch, or whatever it is. I think that's the hard truth, is you can, and sometimes it's you, like, getting through that tension of growing into something new.
And I think so. I think one of the foundational idea for rest and rejuvenation and recovery is the ability to say no, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a jumping off place.
Right. So let's talk about, we've got rest, rejuvenation, and recovery. So let's go through those. So what does rest look like for you, Cristina? You talked about that Professor Dalton. There was a list.
I think what's interesting about Dr. Dalton's work is that your 7 areas of rest, which were spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, sensory, creative, and social, we take that rest in as something that is non-active, right? But it's not. Actually, most of these forms of rest require an action, or something that you're doing that allows the brain to find a place of neutrality and just rest. So I feel like physical rest, like she gave an example, can be sleeping. Like, obviously we know we need that sleep. Sleep is integral to the brain and all of the body. And that's the hardest to get, especially if you have a lot of tiny humans in your life, or if you are shift work, but finding a way to let your body sleep. But then it also said, like, walking, doing yoga, getting a massage. These are allowing your body to do something that is repetitive, maybe has a meditative quality to it, that allows for rest. So for me personally, I know I can find a lot of rest in completing a task. Like, I love to see something for myself done and then be able to, like, look at it. So, like, if I go out and weed the garden, right? When I'm done weeding, watering, trimming back the garden, my body feels like, when I can see that thing is done. Well, baths. I'm just in that tub.
You're a bath girl.
Oh my gosh. I'm
Really?
in that tub. I got my candles. Like, my people understand now, like, like my husband, even sometimes, like, if he comes home from work and I'm already in the tub, like, it's like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., he's like, hey, I'm like, hey, he's like, you good? Like, how was your day? And sometimes I'm like, it was great. There's something spiritually calming to just be in the water.
It's a ritual.
Yeah, like, it just is something that I know my body can be at peace and at rest there. I can read, I can not, I can have a snack. Like, it can be an indulgent rest, or it can just be simple. So, yeah, I would probably say baths are my, like, go-to mental, physical, spiritual, depending on the need, rest.
When I think of rejuvenation, I think of almost kind of like a rebirth, to be brought back to being viable. So rest is allowing your body a kind of stillness. And obviously these are all talking about, they require effort and movement, but it's laying something else, to rest, to sleep. And rejuvenation is the bringing it back to life. It's the reinvigoration of your being. Yeah. And I would say maybe that the recovery could function as a process going from rest to rejuvenation. There's a process of recovery.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I know for me, silence, going on, there was a period of time where I would go on really long hikes or nature walks, and just with nothing in my ears, just to have chance to, like, let all the worrying thoughts or words or conversations I was having, what I should have said or processing, I would walk and walk until those voices had petered out, till all those words had been used that were living in my head. And then I would know it was almost time to turn around when I could then hear the birds or the wind, and there was nothing else speaking.
Oh, that's good.
You know? And I also remember I also do yoga. And one of the first times back to yoga, it was in a gentle yoga class. It was just stretching and being still and quiet. But just the acts of having a space that was calm and still and that was intended to care for me. When I tell you I was in like down dog weeping because it had felt like it had been such a long time since there had been space carved for me, you know, and so it became for me sanctuary. I always think of sanctuary when I'm walking and there's trees as sanctuary, you know.
Yeah.
Just a space held for healing. So those are things that I do. A couple of things. There's some others, but I can share them another time. Those are the things that really just give me a chance to just get the next breath to begin the next step in rejuvenation, resting.
And then we end with recovery.
I'm working from the idea of recovery as the process, coming from rest being laying to sleep, some things that need to go away, you know, and recovery, the process, maybe some things that you do. Just to remember that we need to rest. And it's not always just being still.
Right.
We need to take care of ourselves, do some things to invest in ourselves so that we can come back to life. I know for a long time, you know, well, I had a season where I read a lot of books about, you know, slow living, the hell with the hustle. I mean, the book name drop. But, you know, and then the idea of Sabbath, if that's, you know, comes into your belief system, Sabbath as a means of resistance, you know, saying this machine of culture, stop, you know, this is time for me. But in doing all that, I thought I was just sitting and just, you know, doing nothing.
Doing nothing, right.
You know, and so I would wonder, well, I don't feel any better. Like my body has recovered, but like I still have all
your
this stuff.
mind is still racing.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
You know, as we've been, you know, delving into this, I think for me, my two best friends here are introverts. Okay, they're introverts, and I'm very much an extrovert. And how they rejuvenate, how they recover, is absolutely nothing like me, and that is okay. You know, when Cristina is on a bout of reading all the self-help books and all the books, I'm like, ooh, she is trying to figure some things out. Like, I know that means like there's some things going on there that she's really trying to delve into, and that is great. I'm not going to do that. That's not my thing. Okay. That's not for me. And that's okay. That's okay. You know what I like? I like girl weekends. I like a Friday night wine and dine with my girlfriends and their spouses. These things are exciting to me. But I also, as an extrovert, speaking to those that are extroverts too, don't shun the silence. There's greatness in silence. And it took me, oh my gosh, I'm 2 years old, and it's taken me a long time to embrace the silence. And I think these ladies have encouraged that because I've watched them in their silence, and now I'm okay with that. Sometimes it's okay to just be with yourself, and that is enough.
Like text message threads, bing, 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 right? And so by like day 4, I had not read all of them, but not answered any of them. And then I finally had to be like, hey, I'm here, but I'm not, like, I'm present, I'm hearing, I'm accepting all the things that are coming. But I had pulled back, like I had hermited. I had said like, I'm doing the basics, right? Like we've had a lot of transition and I'm here, but I'm not. And so giving myself permission to not engage in everything, knowing that I needed energy later for other things, allowed some of that margin, right? For some rest, a little bit of recovery to like build up to the next thing. I think is important too, that you kind of know where you are. And it is hard because just as people living in a society, like you've talked about, we're expected to go, do. And so just kind of finding your own path. And like you've talked about this too, like I have a 20-year-old, and just that age group of people, I think having come through COVID, right, where COVID told everybody to just sit down, just go on and sit down, be quiet for a minute. COVID sent everybody in their room for a long sit down think. And but I think that generation has kind of come out with this idea of balance. Mm-hmm. They do seek a lot more balance in their day. Like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to do that. Oh, you want to go out? Sure. And they're okay to say no. Like they're okay to like seek out professions that are going to give them what they want. Or I think like maybe we came through a generation where we're adulted to constantly pursue. Yeah. You know,
and we're definitely we have a series about that. I think all of our parents did their best.
Yes,
absolutely. they all tried their best, but they told us that if you work really hard, you go and do the college, you do the things, and you just try to be the best in the room, you will receive everything you've wanted and everything you deserve. And that is just not true.
Mm-hmm. Or to leave margin that the thing that you desire at one point in your life isn't the thing that you're going to desire at another point in your life.
Right.
You know,
and I think this, people hate on these Gen Zers. But I find such beauty and excitement in them because they choose something. I'm like, I love you, but being a banjo player, in New York, and you're just playing, for the people getting off the subway, I don't know. And they're like, man, that sounds great. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get to sit there and just be authentic and just play for people. That's what I want. And you're just like, ooh, you need a place to live, baby. Like but the idea that they are going to wake up every day and love what they do, you better calm down. Mm-hmm. I wish someone would have told me that. Yeah. That was not necessarily the situation.
Right. And so what we've been kind of talking about is that we've been crafted to serve the machine, which is, right, society or culture. And so being intentional about these 3 R's, rest, recovery, rejuvenation is saying, no, I don't exist for culture or for work.
Come on.
This is my one life to live, and I cannot go all the time. And the ways that I live should be according to who I am and my purposes. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to be vigilant and diligent about holding space for that. Yeah.
So what we want you to do this week is to write down some things that you need to do to rest, to rejuvenate, and to recover, because it matters. We are so happy that you came to listen to us today or see us if you're on YouTube, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Blooming horizon, we're here to show in the highs and the lows. Let's grow as we